Filmmaker Avinash Arun calls Paatal Lok Season 2 the best screenplay he had read recently. Writer and creator Sudip Sharma admits drawing confidence from his collaboration with Avinash on his first attempt at building and shaping a sequel. Both confess being in love with the character of Delhi cop Hathiram Chaudhary, Sudeep admiring his spirituality, and a Bhagavad Gita inspired commitment to karma. Avinash drawn to the power in his essential loneliness and solitude. Leave alone thinking of any other actor as Hathiram, the two have now even started calling Jaideep Ahlawat by his Patal Lok name. Hi, I'm Namrata Joshi, and in this first episode of my podcast for the New Indian Express, I sit Sudeep and Avinash down to take a deep dive into the making of Prime Video's Patal Lok 2, a worthy and some would even say better successor to the popular season 1. They interpret and deconstruct their idea, imagination, and execution of the netherworld, the do's and don'ts that underline their approach to Nagaland, the resourceful casting, and showing the human side of the flawed, compromised cops. Do join me on this wide ranging conversation. Thanks so much for joining me, Avinash and Sudeep, and a big congrats to begin with on what a success the second season of Patal Lok has been. Were you confident that you had a winner in your hand, or was there this, weight of expectations from how popular the first season was? Was there any anxiety regarding that? Avinash, would you want to say something to begin with?
I think I was quite confident since the day I read the script. Means I was really confident about the script, the way draft came out, and when Sudip sir read drafts for us, and we discussed. I guess it was one of the best screenplay I had ever heard. You know, so that pressure was already mounted, that how to do this. You know, so I was confident about the screenplay, but during the process, and once the edit was done, when I saw the edit, I felt the vibe. Yeah, that's what I can say.
Sudeep, were you as confident about the screenplay? You all, the fact that this goes into a different world, into a different zone from
Right.
the first part.
No, I wasn't. I'm generally not very confident of my work. I tend to be quite underconfident, and I draw a lot of confidence from my collaborators such as Avinash. So because when you're writing something and you're creating something, you tend to become very sort of you tend to lose that objectivity sometimes. So I rely on his judgment and the judgment of the other team members a lot. How did they feel when they first read it, or when they first heard it? What did it make them feel? And are all the ends kind of tying in nicely, and all of those things that you need to wonder about your screenplays. But their confidence and their belief kind of helped reassure that okay, we are on the right track, although we were taking some very big challenges, very big sort of punts with the second season, which were very deliberate. It was we were going very far away from the territory of the first season, not just physically. We were moving from sort of the badlands of Bundelkhand and some parts of Punjab to as far away as Nagaland, which is not a territory uh, often seen on mainstream television shows or films. But even in terms of the feel of the second season, and it was all very deliberate. We wanted sort of a progression for the character to come from the first to the second season. In first season, Hathiram was a lot angrier with the world. He was a lot sort of he was coming in with the energy of someone who hasn't gotten his due from the world. In this particular season, he has made peace with where his place in the world is, where his place in life and the police department is. And even though he's not happy about it, but he has reached some sort of an uneasy settlement with what's coming his way. And that just meant that the season was, if I may say, for lack of a better word, less sexier, and less out there, and a little more internal, but yeah, the some of the people we showed it to, that kind of helped us, kind of just get reassured that we are possibly on the right track.
Got it. But is that, I mean, do I assume that that's the reason why perhaps it would have taken the two of you so long to come into the second part of it? Or did it come as an afterthought? You had entirely not thought of doing a sequel and then decided to do it. Why this 5 year gap?
So I mean, when we were making the first season, we made it with this belief that, okay, we don't know if there is ever going to be a second season, so let's make this with all the heart, and let's put all our eggs in this basket, and we'll see if there is ever a second season. We never wrote it with it. That's why there is a very definite sort of an end to the first season. And even if there was never another season, I would have been satisfied with it, because we told a story, we told a complete story, and we gave closure to all the major characters. And that was that. And when Amazon saw the edit, and when they wanted to do another season and they greenlit that, then came the challenge of, okay, what do we do with it now? In the all over again, how do we go in this journey? But my initial idea, which is how I had pitched it to Prime Video, that if there is ever a second season, then it would be a new case, and we would not be starting off from where we left, but we would actually be taking a jump, in the second season, both in terms of the character graph, where we leave the character and where we find them, and also in terms of like bringing in a new plot and new characters, a new place, a new territory, and just all that, the fresh energy that comes along with that. But there was a lot of reasons for it. It was the writing was one. We needed to make sure that we do it right. I also wanted to make sure we don't do it for the wrong reasons. We don't do it for the fact that the first season worked, so now let's do another season. But we needed to know for ourselves that there is uh, more of this story left, that there is more of Hathiram's story left, that there is more of this character that we still want to see. So first part was that, and then it was the COVID first wave, then the second wave, and all of that. Then we were also very clear, all three of us, Jaideep, Avinash, and I, that whenever it is happening, all three of us want to be on it. So, and by this time we also had other commitments. So all of that had to be juggled. And then I remember one fine day, we all put aside our dates and say, okay, we're gonna do it in the winters of this particular of the next year, and let's just keep our dates aside, not take anything for that. And then we followed it through over the next 1 year or so, and here we are.
Mhm. Uh, Stepping aside from Paatal Lok for just a little bit, just a detour, when we talk of sequels for both of you, are there any sequels that have worked and are there any which have not worked? Before I get into Paatal Lok deeper, I just wanted to take this one detour and wonder about that.
I think in the West they do it a lot better, because
Mhm.
they have this 30-year, 40-year advantage on us of having done this for so long historically. That the rooms are also much bigger, and they can churn out the second sequel faster without losing on the quality. These things are all new for us. The whole thing about this was the first time that I was ever writing a sequel to anything, and that's always a challenge, because you realize that a lot of the plot has been sucked dry, and you need to come up with a fresh storyline, and there are some characters who do not make sense anymore, because you have given them very definite closures, and you don't have any more of their story left in you to say. So in the West, there's so many shows. In fact, if you look at shows like Sopranos or The Wire or Mad Men, the classics, they tend to get better with every season. In fact, my least favorite season of Sopranos, which is my favorite show, is the first season. And then it tends to get better and better, because I think the you tend to know about about what to do, what not to do a lot more as you go along. The actors tend to know about their characters a lot better. You also try harder with coming out with newer storylines and don't go for the low-hanging fruits as such. So yes, in India, I think they're still struggling. I thought The Family Man did a good job with the second season. I thought The Panchayat also did a pretty decent job with the second season. Uh, but yeah, we still have that the season 2 curse to take care of for the Indian screens.
What about you, Avinash? Do you feel the same or
I feel the same, I guess. मैं वैसे भी शोज वैसे बहुत कम देखता हूँ क्योंकि बहुत लंबा कमिटमेंट लगता है देखने के लिए. तो
Mhm.
I think, yeah, means for me, Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, these are the shows which has done very well over the like one season after the other. And I think show making in India, we are at a very nascent stage. We come from the tradition of like television, mostly like Delhi soaps. जहाँ पे
Mhm.
मतलब मैंने सुना है कि हजार हजार एपिसोड्स भी लिखे हैं लोगों ने.
Mhm.
बट आई थिंक चीजें थोड़ी थोड़ी बेटर हो रही है, एंड देयर आर मल्टीपल रीजंस. मेन रीजन तो मुझे वही लगता है कि कमिटमेंट टू द फॉर्मेट. Because we do so many things. We do advertising, feature films, and जहाँ because sense of security भी बहुत ही delicate है हमारा.
Mhm.
uh, you know
बिल्कुल समझ सकती हूँ.
so that's so because of that, I feel the investment, unless it's extremely passion driven, it's very difficult to crack one season after the other. I feel, and someone like Sudeep, um, yeah, he's done it, I guess. Many people are going to take inspiration from this, and we'll see better days.
अविनाश, आपने कहा था कि द व्हेन यू रेड द स्क्रीन प्ले यू वर कॉन्फिडेंट अबाउट इट बट इट काइंड ऑफ पोज्ड अ चैलेंज फॉर यू. आपको लगा कि अब आप कैसे उसे पर्दे पे लेकर आएंगे. आई वुड वांट यू टू गो इनटू दिस क्वेश्चन अ बिट बिट
Hmm.
this question a bit more, but in the context of something else that I wanted to start off with, which is this whole notion of the netherworld. Sudeep, if I were to look at some of your works, NH10 ho, Urta Punjab ho, Kora ho, Son Chiriya ho, I think I find a certain hell in all these worlds. What makes the hell so fascinating for you? And I'll come to you, Avinash, because आपने हेल से अलग बहुत टेंडर स्टफ भी किया है. तो आप किस तरह से हेल को अप्रोच करते हैं? बट टू बिगिन विद सुदीप, फ्रॉम यू, what is it that makes hell more fascinating than heaven, and the fact that you're looking into issues like honor killings, drugs, feticide, and whatnot, something on netherworld itself.
Uh, I don't know, honestly. I think it's the desire to kind of to shine a light on the darkness inside us, that draws me to it, because I feel that if we do that, uh, th- there is uh, there is possibly a better chance to understand ourselves and to understand society at large, and hopefully kind of at least acknowledge. The first thing is we have to acknowledge the darkness, and not brush it under the carpet, or no, or to pretend that there is no darkness ahead in the lane. But that kind of fascinates me, that kind of draws me. But still kind of approach it with an idea of hope, that
Hmm.
even despite all this darkness, despite all of it, there are uh, the goodness in us, the inherent goodness in humanity can save the day for us. Is how I like to sort of go about it.
अविनाश, आपका मीन खिला है, थ्री ऑफ अस है, वेरी लिरिकल टेंडर, looks at humanity with a more humane core. When some subject like this comes to you, and like you said that a subject which you found was so well cooked when it came to you, तो आप उसमें क्या लेकर आते हैं और आप कैसे उसे अप्रोच करते हैं?
See, I think with Patal Lok, everything is written right there. I don't have to do anything. it's just because ये मतलब मुझे पता है कि मतलब जितना भी मैंने आज तक काम किया है, मुझे लगता है कि शायद 3 स्क्रीन प्लेज मैंने पढ़े होंगे अभी 15 साल के करियर में, कि वन गो में मैंने पढ़े होंगे, यू नो और पाताल लोक उसमें से एक है, ये दोनों सीजन्स। तो मुझे मुझे एक्चुअली मुझे लगता है कि मैंने जितना मेहनत अपने क्राफ्ट पे पिछले कुछ मतलब मेरे एफटीआई के दिनों में, और वो मेहनत मेरी आज काम आ रही है। मुझे नहीं लगता है कि मैं कुछ एक्स्ट्राऑर्डिनरी करता हूँ या फिर कुछ मेहनत भी डालता हूँ। मुझे लगता है कि वो रिटन टेक्स्ट जो है, दैट गिव्स मी दी एनर्जी। मैं बहुत ज़्यादा इंस्टिंक्टिव आदमी हूँ, कि जो जैसा एक एक सेंसेशंस वो स्क्रिप्ट पढ़ने के बाद होती है आपके मन में, शरीर में, आप जो भाव पैदा होता है, वो क्राफ्ट के थ्रू वो भाव आप किस तरह से बाहर लाते हो। और वो उसको प्रैक्टिकली, आई एम अ वेरी प्रैक्टिकल फिल्म मेकर। मुझे लगता है कि कि किस किस तरह के कंस्ट्रेंट्स, किस तरह के दायरों में आप काम कर रहे हो, उसको समझ के कि क्या एक इफेक्टिव तरीका या रास्ता हो सकता है ये कहानी कहने का। मुझे लगता है कि इट्स फॉर मी इट्स अ प्रोसेस ऑफ एलिमिनेशन, कि क्या नहीं करना है किस 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 प्रोजेक्ट में, कि तो वो मैं पहले डिसाइड कर लेता हूँ कि ओके, दीज आर द काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स विच आई डोंट वांट टू डू। लाइक विद दिस पर्टिकुलर सीजन आई न्यू दैट स्क्रिप्ट इज एक्सट्रीमली डेंस, वी आर गोइंग इन अ न्यू टेरिटरी, hilly areas. Again, we are going to work with a lot of non-actors. So I knew that I'm like we are not going to invest any time in lighting up the spaces, this that. So I had to rely mostly upon natural light. But that commitment, like that kind of a decision, I had taken it earlier. कि ये तो नहीं करना है. So maximum time we have to invest in performances. We are daylight is going to be much lesser to shoot over there. So to and with OTT shows के बजट जो है ना, वो मैं ये नहीं कहता हूँ कि वो मतलब बहुत कम होते हैं, बट एट द सेम टाइम वो बहुत लिमिटेड होते हैं, वो कंटिजेंसी बिल्कुल नहीं होती है। तो जो जो इतना अच्छा स्क्रिप्ट जो पेपर पे आया है, उसको उतना ही एक पर्याप्त मात्रा में किस तरह से आप बना सकते हो। आई गेस मैं बहुत ज़्यादा प्रैक्टिकली सोचता हूँ उस दायरे में। तो तो या विद सुदीप्स राइटिंग इट्स लाइक आई गेट कनेक्टेड instantly. I don't know, there is some relation I have with him, I feel, which मुझे लगता है कि जो empathy he resonates with on paper, it's directly speaks to me, I feel, you know.
Lovely. Northeast, Nagaland, you said you kind of, going into a different zone. When I heard about it, there was, I mean, I think we've just grown into that sense of skepticism ki kaisa portrayal hoga, uh, 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 there is this whole thing of the inside and the outsider, whether the insider's understanding is better than the outsider's distance to look at, a certain chain of events. When you approached Nagaland, were there any do's and don'ts with which you embarked on, using Nagaland as the stage for your series, and how deep did you dig? Was there a lot of expert advice that you took? How did you approach Nagaland?
Uh, I think uh, so. I mean, I must say here that I grew up in Assam, so I have a connection to the Northeast and I have a connection to Nagaland. I was not as sort of as lost when we started writing about it. The foundation was already there, although Assam and Nagaland are very different. That is one big mistake we tend to make over there by
Your
calling
Northeast,
you know
Northeast is clubbed under one. Yeah.
very very different states with very very different cultures, very very different set of problems. My so I always had curiosity about the other states as well, and I had kept myself updated because since you come from that part of the world, you keep reading about it and stuff. uh, and I had visited Nagaland even as a child or as a young adult, and I had friends and family from there. So, there was a foundation which was already there. And then when we started writing, I think the basic tenet that we were trying to follow was that we are not going to let's not go with the agenda of chalo Nagaland dikhate hain, rest of the India. Let's not have that. Let's not also have the agenda, which is also something that we tend to, that is one mistake we tend to follow is, oh, that we have the Northeast or this particular land has been overlooked. So, let's look down at them with pity, or let's look at them with a sense of victims. We also wanted to stay away from that altogether, and basically uh, not have any differentiation in the way we are looking at this land just because it's Nagaland. For me, if it could have been any place, could have been Goa, if it could have been anywhere, we would have gone about it with the same kind of, attitude and the same kind of thinking. Uh, we had a very good researcher along with us through the pre-production and production, a wonderful lady called Anungla Longkumar from Dimapur, who was throughout with us in the making of it, and she kind of held our hands through, because it's a very intricate culture. And now, having gone through the process and having had those hours and hours of discussions with Anugla and all the other the Naga cast and the Naga crew that we had, that now we are a lot more aware of say how the tribal culture works in Nagaland, how the tribal politics work, the role of the state, the role of the church, the insurgency problem, the drug problem. So all of this we had to sort of research and get an idea about, and also get a little bit of a hang of the language, because I like using authentic dialogue in the work. So all of that took some time, but good thing was, because शो को बनाने में इतना वक्त लगा कि हमारे पास वक्त बहुत था, एक ही चीज थी हमारे पास, वो था वक्त. So वो वक्त हमने बहुत अच्छे से यूज किया. Even though we knew the production was a year and a half away, all of us, be it Avinash, be it myself, my team, Polumi, who is the creative supervisor, Mukund, who is the production designer. I remember I was shooting Kora in 2022, and Mukund was there on the set, and we were shooting Balbir's house, which was a very important location. And in between takes, Mukund comes to me and he's like, "Sir, 5 minutes है आपके पास?" And I was like, "हाँ बोलो." यार ये रोज के घर का ये स्केच कैसा लग रहा है? And I was like, hang on, it's the wrong show. We are shooting something else. But that was the kind of passion that the entire team had. They just, even through through the years and the long months that it took to get there, to finally getting into pre-production and production, they kept chiseling at it, and they kept updating their knowledge of. I mean, he had tons of data by the time we actually got down to it. Tons of like images and research done on how the houses look, how the lived-in spaces over there are, and I think all of that kind of helped in putting together something that feels authentic.
Mhm, mhm. Uh, in terms of the politics, the economics, the social aspect of the place, you do talk about Langchoma. You talk about the drug menace. You talk about this whole intrusion that perhaps the rest of India has been doing, the exploitation which comes from. How far did you go towards that, and how far did you decide not to step into, or not to go too deep into the into the the more political aspects of the place?
It was a delicate line. I'll be honest with you, because I mean, so the whole thing about the insider-outsider debate is, and because this I have witnessed firsthand, it works both ways. The states of Northeast, if say Nagaland feels that India has treated them as outsiders, or the non-Nagas in Nagaland, or also sometimes come across some kind of a racial prejudice, and some kind of, with the whole Bajoria track that was there. And I grew up with that very closely, because ours was a Rajasthani family. and we were living in this sort of Marwari ghetto in Assam. And this, I'm talking about the 80s and the 90s, which were like particularly turbulent
That
times in
period.
the whole Ulfa movement and all of that that was there. So it's a that's why it's a very sensitive subject over there. We wanted to touch upon both sides of it without seeming like we are taking sides, without seeming like we are calling any sides victims, but just to show the situation as it is. But we were also very sure that, unlike in the first season, where the politics was part of the story, here the politics was really the part of the story of the characters, but not really part of the story of the show. And I think that was the big difference. The politics makes these characters who they are and make them do choices, make them take certain choices that they do, but that was not the point of the show, unlike in the first season. So that was really the fine line that we were trying to walk.
Mhm. Avinash, Sudeep just talked about how the whole approach was to not get into Nagaland, as like a conducted tour, कि आओ तुम्हें Nagaland दिखाएं. Uh, Kind of taking off from that, when you went about shooting, what were the principles that you followed? How did you frame the place and frame the characters?
It was framed for the characters, not for the space. Yeah, that's what I would like to say. uh, 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 जैसे मैंने कहा कि लाइक मेन मुझे लगता है कि रात मतलब अपार्ट फ्रॉम शूटिंग इट आई गेस बिकॉज सारे ही नॉन एक्टर्स थे देर आर लाइक पहली बार कैमरा फेस कर रहे थे लोग, मतलब कोई प्रोफेसर है, कोई आर्टिस्ट है, मतलब सिंगर है, एंड दे आर सच वाइब्रेंट rich artists they are within themselves, what they do, तो लेकिन कैमरा का एक वो जो एक फियर और वो किस तरह से जब हम स्क्रीन टेस्ट देखते थे, और पहले तो मुझे जब ऐसा कि मुंबई में रह के यहाँ से मतलब कास्ट कैसे होगा, कहाँ से लोग आएंगे, और तो निकिता ग्रोवर हमारी जो कास्टिंग डायरेक्टर है, मेरे ख्याल से अबाउट लाइक कितना बहुत सारे महीने उसने वहां पे बिताए हैं। हाँ सुदीप सर।
She actually became a local by
Yeah.
And all of the people are talking about casting on, how one of the big winners of the season is the approach towards casting
Yeah.
that we've adopted here.
Right. No, and it was a lot of that credit goes to Nikita, and I think she basically she an adopted daughter of Nagaland right now. She can walk into knock
Yeah.
on any door in Kohima or in Dimapur, and she'll be taken in because everyone knows her. She spent months and months there. Just finding these, because the challenge there was not finding actors, which is your usual
Yeah.
challenge. हमें actors ढूंढने नहीं थे, हमें actors बनाने थे. So what she would do is, if she saw someone walking on the street who had an interesting face that could work for a character, she would click a picture stealthily, or sometimes with permission, and she would send it to us and say, does he fit for this part? And we were like, yeah, okay, maybe. And then she would spend the next 3 days with that person in training him or her for the audition.
Yeah.
How to actually audition, how to, actually face the camera and say those lines, just so that it's not a really bad audition that we end up rejecting. And
Correct.
then after that, on the fourth day, she would take the audition, send it to us, and we could see that there was potential. And then we were like, okay, there is potential. What I think the beautiful thing about Nagaland, although it doesn't have an organized industry, film and television industry, is uh, that there's a lot of confidence in the people.
Yes.
A natural confidence. There is also I think the the underground artist movement there is very strong, and you have musicians, you have writers, you have poets who you haven't heard of, but they are artists in their own regard, and along with that comes a certain appreciation for the art, for this art form, a certain confidence, that comes along with it, and that was what she was trying to tap into, and I think that really worked for us.
अविनाश, इस सीरीज में मैं हमेशा फिल्म बोलती हूँ क्योंकि लाइक यू आई थिंक आई एम ऑल्सो स्टक इन दैट जोन इन द
But it's
सीरीज.
like a feature film. For me, it's a very long feature film.
Absolutely, the long form narrative, as one would say. You know, as you are directing two directors here, Janu Barua and you have Nagesh Kukunor. How was it directing directors?
Oh, they're fantastic. Means Janu sir तो मतलब बहुत मतलब उनका नाम आया ऐसे ही दिमाग में, and like we approached him and he really like he read the script and he had seen season one and he really had liked the show, and we met him. He agreed to do it, you know, and and yeah, and about Nagesh, Sudeep will tell, I guess. He
Yeah, so Nagesh also, with both of them, it was actually so for me personally, since I grew up in Assam, Janu sir was a huge name, right? I mean, he was the ray of Assam. I remember
True.
back I was in school, I was in probably fifth standard or something uh, when Janu sir won the national award for Haldia Sarai Baudun Khai. And there was a screening in school because we were all so proud of the fact that an Assamese filmmaker has won the national award. And I remember my father talking about it. So my father, he just stays completely away from all things cinema, including my own work. But the first time I felt a sense of pride in him was when I told him, you know what, Janu Barua is acting in my show, and I felt that sense of pride in him that okay, my son is not doing too bad, with his work. With Nagesh again, this is something that I reminded Nagesh that when I was doing my MBA and I was kind of lost in that world. कहीं से मुझे नागेश का email ID मिला, and I wrote to him. This I'm talking about 2001. I wrote to him saying, "Sir, I'm kind of lost in this world, and I heard you are an engineer who made this journey to filmmaking." And Hyderabad Blues had come out, and I had seen it, and I was a big fan of that film, and that I would love to work with you. He never replied, and I reminded him that multiple times that he never replied to it. So it was really like, meeting your sort of childhood heroes and working with them. And I remember this one picture that I have, that we have of Janu sir, Nagesh, Avinash, and I. And it's one of my cherished memories from the show and the shoot. And they completely surrendered. They
yeah.
completely surrendered. They were fully listening into the instructions, and they were very curious about Avinash's way of working, about how we were sort of running the set, and it was beautiful just having them.
Mhm. Prashant is again very, very interestingly cast, and I was quite thrilled to see some of my own friends there. Kenny, Kenny was there. Kenny Basumatari, Asim Chabra was there. So what was the larger thought behind getting this oddball mix together?
I mean, I honestly, when you look back, it felt like we were because I think what really worked for us was that since there was not this pool of actors to tap into, which is what tends to happen in Bombay. The moment you go to a casting director and say, "Acha, I'm making a show and I'm looking for, these parts," and you would have these set uh, actors with their numbers, and these photos would be shown to you. इसने इसमें काम किया था, इसने इसमें काम किया था. You can see his work here, you can see her work there. Because we did not have that pool to draw from. I think we all needed to get very creative, and it really came from there. That okay, I think the one thing common thread that we were looking for is has that person got anything to do with art, anything to do with not just cinema but any kind of an art form, and that became an advantage. That became the pool to draw from. That's why we have Prashant, who is a singer. We have rappers, LC, who plays Ruben. He's a rapper.
Ruben.
We also have art professors. We have filmmakers. Three of them, with Kenny, as you pointed out. I had seen Kenny's film. And I had seen him act in Shanghai as well. So, and Kenny's name, and he's from Guwahati. So we share that connection. We kind of came from there. Asim was Avinash's idea. I think Avinash, I just met him recently, and he was like, Asim might be right for this part. And I'm like, okay, why not? At least we'll have one critic on our side, right?
Very, very wicked. Uh, but you kind of talking about the actors and what went into it, the casting. I'm wondering, and Avinash, you would bear me out on this. Is it because the characters are so well etched that anyone could have walked in, and become those characters?
Exactly. I think so because like एक character itna you get to know so much about them in that one scene, you know. That's what and पहली बार एक ऐसी कहानी थी जहाँ पे आप नागालैंड में जा रहे हो और ये नागालैंड के लोगों के बारे में कहानी है। ऐसा नहीं कि एक कैरेक्टर वहाँ पे गया अपनी स्टोरी लेके, यू नो, महाराष्ट्र से गया या दिल्ली से गया, जो अक्सर होता है, लाइक इवन मतलब आप रोजा की बात करो या फिर दिल से की बात करो या फिर बहुत बहुत सारी फिल्म्स हैं जो मतलब कि यहाँ से तो आई गेस दैट्स वो बहुत ही नयापन था कहानी में। लाइक व्हेन वी स्टार्टेड रीडिंग आई नो कि जब पहले 2 एपिसोड खत्म किए और तीसरा एपिसोड जब पढ़ पढ़ के खत्म किया था, वी वर लाइक ये क्या दुनिया है, और ये होगा कैसे? you know so but the sheer love, joy and excitement, कि इतना डिटेल्ड में ये लिखा हुआ था, तो बस उसको जाके निभाना था। और अभी तो मतलब इतने 4 साल का वो प्रोसेस रहा है, तो I'm feeling that sense of detachment and a very strange kind of a calm has seeped in now. तो मैं पीछे जाके मुड़ के जब देखता हूँ तो अभी सिर्फ एक बहुत अच्छी और प्यारी मेमोरीज है मेरे दिमाग में।
Mhm, mhm. And I also see that as part of, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm seeing this, increasingly happening in cinema where casting also is part of that whole process where there is a certain element of realism which gets married to fiction. It's not documentary realism, but
Yeah,
there's a certain contextualization which also draws from the fact that you take real life people and use them as characters, and then fictionalize it. It's not a documentary. Somewhere that element kind of, I find, becoming more and more prominent and working better. Do you see that happen as well, or disagree with it?
I see that in Avinash's work a lot. I think there is this uh, he lot of times that what happens is, the most directors that I have seen in the city, they tend to they tend to approach it with, okay, how do we stylize this place, or how do we stylize this particular scene? He never approaches any scene like that. I've never seen him say, okay, isko thoda aise karte hain, या how about we start off like that. He's like, okay, I'm going to observe. I think that is what, and I think it is that observational quality that you're talking about. That's where you'd get that sense of realism, if we may call it that. That, okay, we are going to go into Rose's mother's home, and we are going to observe her. We are going to observe her doing her thing. We are going to observe her as she goes about her routine, while these two cops are asking her and investigating her about her daughter. uh, that is something that I think now we are seeing more and more of. But in Avinash's work, I've followed that right from Killa to even the couple of things that he has done with me in both seasons of Paatal Lok. This sense of observation of life.
Is that conscious, Avinash?
yes it is. I feel like I really don't, uh, मुझे लगता है कि I like to observe people from a distance. इवन अगर मूवमेंट्स भी होते हैं तो वो थोड़े से पैरेलल जाए। आई डोंट लाइक टू इंट्रूड and have my own opinion of, like, कि ऐसे इस तरह से तो मुझे मुझे वो इंट्रूजन थोड़ा आई फील लाइक नहीं, थोड़ा सा दृष्टा भाव से देखते हैं, साक्षी भाव से देखते हैं जितना होता है, एंड जस्ट सी लाइक व्हाइल सीइंग, डू यू फील एनीथिंग, यू नो, अगर अगर यहीं से देख के अगर फील हो गया वो, अगर एम्पैथी अगर आ पा रही है तो उतना इनफ है। एंड अबाउट, मतलब मुझे चीज़ें सिंपल रखना बहुत अच्छा लगता है, क्योंकि मतलब सीजन 1 पे हमारा एक, मतलब हमने एक 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 चीज़ थी जो हमने कि एम्बिशन इज इन स्टोरी टेलिंग and simplicity in execution. That was our motto, so that ambition was there, right there in the script, and I think there is only one maker or director on a film set, and that is the script. Script tells you how it's going to get shot, so you have to, and those are very tiny whispers, like, and they're very intuitive. वो बहुत ऐसे लाउडर कभी आके कुछ बोलता नहीं है कि कि तो मुझे लगता है कि वो, जैसे मैंने कहा कि द वे सुदीप राइट्स, इट्स लाइक इट्स एवरीथिंग इज रिटन, यू सी द शॉट, and it's very, at times it's very edgy, very sharp, and और और इस तरह का एम्पैथी जो मतलब पेपर पे पढ़ के ही आपको फिल्म दिखे भी और महसूस भी हो, ये बहुत रेयर मोमेंट्स होते हैं, क्योंकि इस तरह का क्राफ्ट स्क्रीन राइटिंग में लाना, मुझे लगता है कि वो एक बहुत बड़ा ही अनोखा अनोखी चीज़ है। मुझे लगता है कि मतलब आई रियली वंडर हाउ ही डज इट। सो या, ऑल द क्रेडिट गोज टू द स्क्रिप्ट, आई मस्ट से।
It brings me to a couple of, the final rounds of questions, but for me most significant. When we talk of characters, the character of Hathi, and Jaideep there. I mean, again, Sudeep, correct me if I'm wrong, but in both the seasons, Avinash, you too, the whole aspect of masculinity has been kind of looked at with a completely different perspective. Here, it's like I could sense cynicism. I could sense a certain marginalization and kind of living in those margins. Mm, the fascinating character that it is, that कि आपने अपनी मोरालिटी को एक लेवल पे शायद कॉम्प्रोमाइज किया हुआ है, शायद क्या किया हुआ है, व्हेन ही सेज दैट पालती पाल सिस्टम का पालतू कुत्ता, व्हेन इज रेफर्ड टू, एंड येट देयर इज सो मच इन हिम which is kind of instinctively his salvation, of this so-called permanent residence of Paatal Lok. uh, how 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 significant and how important is this character for the two of you? I mean, Jaideep ke liye to hai hi how he has interpreted it, but it's one of the most fabulous characters that one has come across in any Hindi cinema stuff, Hindi web series, TV. कहीं पर भी आप देखें तो something about this fascinating character and this whole aspect of masculinity which I find very intriguing here.
I love Hathiram.
Yeah.
I think is the character closest to my heart. और मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि this one particular character writing is always difficult, but with this one character I always feel कि आप मुझे नींद में से भी उठा के बोलोगे ना कि इस सिचुएशन में हाथीराम क्या रिएक्ट करेगा, तो मैं आधी नींद में भी आपको बता दूंगा कि हाथीराम दिस इज व्हाट ही इज गोइंग टू डू, बिकॉज आई फील आई रियली सॉर्ट ऑफ नो हिम from my heart, the character that he's. I think it's partly because he's the kind of man I want to be, possibly. Somebody who is, there is this inherent spirituality in Hathiram which is not obvious at all. It's not the way we generally associate spirituality, but there is this sense of, वो जो गीता में जो कहते हैं ना कि कर्मण्येवाधिकार रस्ते, वो आई थिंक वो हाथीराम है कि मैं अपना कर्म करते जाऊंगा, उसका क्या फल मुझे मिलता है. एंड यू सी मोर एंड मोर ऑफ दैट इन द सेकंड सीजन, देन द फर्स्ट सीजन. आई थिंक फर्स्ट सीजन वाज दैट स्ट्रगल फॉर हिम टू अराइव एट दिस स्पिरिचुअलिटी, which was what made the first season interesting for me, and that's why it ended with a spiritual song and it ended with a Kabir bhajan, because I knew that at the end of the first season, Hathiram is a changed man. Once he comes back from Chitrakoot and that whole incident with the dog and he was a changed man, and he found his sort of, his core is being at the end of the first season. And in second season, you see a lot of that. I do not care about what I am going to get back from the world, but I am this guy, I am this cop, I am this investigator. Until the time I'm doing this job, I'm going to show up at my desk and I am going to pursue whatever thing that comes my way. And I'm going to do it. I am a man. I am a man in this violent, bad world, and that comes with its own set of reactionary patterns, which he also has. But I am also going to deal with this world with a certain sense of empathy.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to, I'm going to take people, I'm going to look at people with not kindness, because I don't think he's a kind man, but I think he's an empathetic man. And that's what I really sort of like about him. And that is I think if we have more of these men in this world, it would probably be a nicer, it would be a nicer place to live in.
How was it, Avinash? Seeing Jaideep live this character, with you intervening in your own way.
मतलब जैसे क्या जिस दिन पहली बार सेट पे आया सीजन 2 के, I guess we were all at ease and peace and कि बाबा हाँ हो रहा है and we are back and Hathiram is back. और मुझे लगता है कि apart from all these aspects which Sudip mentioned, I feel like हाथीराम एक मैन की लोनलीनेस के बारे में भी बहुत अच्छी तरह से बात करता है, जो मुझे लगता है कि एक एक उसका सॉलिट्यूड, उसका लोनलीनेस, उसकी मोरालिटी, और एंड ऐसा नहीं है कि वो कॉन्शियसली ये सारी चीजों को जानता है, वो वैसा है। एंड ड्यूरिंग द कोर्स ऑफ द स्टोरी, उसकी जर्नी में वो धीरे 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 एक एक पहलू वो खुद भी अपने आप के बारे में जान रहा है और समझ रहा है, तो इट इज अबाउट दैट अवेयरनेस which sort of like comes up with that loneliness and walking on your own path without knowing whether एक मॉरल कंपस, एक हायर मॉरल ग्राउंड है कि जो आपको अंदर से लगता है ना कि ये सही है, कि मुझे लगता है, मुझे इसका परिणाम नहीं पता है कि क्या सही है, मतलब कैसे होगा क्या होगा, बट अंदर से मुझे एक चीज पता है कि ये एक फीलिंग है कि ये सही है। तो या आई गेस वो लोनलीनेस मुझे बहुत ज्यादा हाथीराम की बहुत पावरफुल लगती है मुझे। it's very difficult feeling to it's a very difficult thing to live with that feeling, for a very long time. अभी थर्ड सीजन होगा, तो थर्ड सीजन अगर होगा तो हाथीराम
होना चाहिए, होना चाहिए।
आई एम वेरी वेरी क्यूरियस कि लाइक अभी अभी ये बट आई गेस 70-80 के दशक में एक एंग्री यंग मैन था कि जो मतलब अल्टीमेटली जिसको सब कुछ मिलता था सही गलत करने के बावजूद, लाइक ही वुड गो थ्रू दैट कर्व ऑफ लाइक एक 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 मकाम हासिल करता था, फिर उसको शायद मतलब वो डिरेल भी होता था। बट विथ हाथीराम यू सी दैट फ्रॉम आउटर पर्सपेक्टिव, बाहर की दुनिया से आप लोग, ही इज अ फेलियर, लाइक और बड़े जो लाइक, बट व्हाट इज ही, उसका स्पिरिचुअल गेन जो है, उसकी अवेयरनेस का जो एक उसकी कॉन्शियसनेस जिस तरह से एक्सपांड हो रही है, आई गेस वो मुझे सबसे ज्यादा कनेक्ट करता है। एंड देयर इज हाथीराम इन ऑल ऑफ अस, एज सुदीप सेड कि लाइक दैट इज द कैरेक्टर we want to be,
From that, going on to the cop universe, you are breaking several stereotypes, including Tilotama, as a cop, you are kind of going away from how things are conceptualized. Where do you draw your cop universe from, Sudeep? Because uh, even like Virk के केस में भी आप देखें, there is this thing that the fellow is compromised, yet there is a certain sense of camaraderie, a certain sense of togetherness for the others. It's a very, very interesting space because we tend to see the cop universe in a very, I mean, I shouldn't say, but Rohit Shetty way, and here is a space where you humanize, but you don't make us blind to the issues involved here. It's a very interesting path that you are taking. Uh, what guided your approach to it?
So I think we have always looked at, for some reason, we don't see cops as human beings first. We tend to see them as officers, and we almost like robots. That कि ये law enforcement robots हैं जो अपनी ड्यूटी करेंगे, और या तो ये अच्छा रोबो है या बुरा रोबो है. That's how we have always looked at it in or largely looked at it in cinema. That either you are this honest cop who cannot do anything wrong, जो मर जाएगा लेकिन कभी झुकेगा नहीं, या कभी that he's always only going to do the right thing, or we see them as corrupt. And I think the truth somewhere, as always, lies in between. It lies in the gray, and not just about cops, but people who work in this sort of this oppressive system, be it other government officers, my friends who are there in these jobs. I've seen, it's always that you are part of this larger system, and you are part of this larger machinery, which which will keep on going. So either you can choose to be a part of it or not choose to be a part of it. But if you choose to be a part of it, you can go all the way, or you can still try and retain your individuality. And I think that struggle I'm really interested in. That how do you, which in a way is possibly what all of us are trying to do. What Avinash is trying to do with his work, what I am also trying to do with my own work, that we are not going to let the system get sucked into, get suck us in, but how then do we survive this? How then do we navigate this system with some kind of I don't know if smartness is the word, or with some kind of survival instinct. How do we go about that? I think that really interests me. I think the biggest challenge for a cop, biggest challenge for Hathiram or for Meghna is not the criminal. It is the system itself. How do you retain your core and your soul in this really oppressive machinery, which might be going in a direction that your being is telling you not to go in, but you still have to. I think that struggle is I find very, very fascinating, and to look at them as human beings beyond the call of their duty. मतलब अफसर तो वो 8 या 10 या 12 घंटे के लिए हैं, उसके अलावा वो एक माँ भी है, बाप भी है, बेटा भी है, दोस्त भी है. How do all of these things kind of influence a police officer? And also the fact that sometimes if we have a bad day at work, you come back home and you're like, I don't want to talk to anyone. You shut yourself in a room and do not want to interact. Now, for a bad day at work for us means कि बॉस ने शायद थोड़ा सा डांट दिया, या आपने कुछ एक प्रेजेंटेशन खराब कर दी, और वट एवर द वर्क दैट यू डू, या आज शॉट खराब हो गया, एक सीन खराब हो गया. For them, a bad day at work could be seeing 5 dead bodies. It could mean trying to break a riot. It could mean anything. So how would that affect the psyche of a normal human being? I think these are the things that kind of particularly find fascinating.
The impact of violence, I think that, even as a viewer, it kind of really rings you, particularly with the case of Ansari, and the way you go about it. There is something so clinical and staccato about each of those moments, that it just kind of what perhaps Hathi is feeling translates and reaches to you as well.
Possibly, yeah. I think because he has this ability to witness it and shrug it off, although it is impacting him at a certain level, but he is in that sense man enough to take it on his chin and say, okay, I'm not going to let this pull me down. But he's carrying some, even without realizing, he's possibly carrying the baggage of it back with him, जो कभी कभी शायद बेटे के साथ निकल जाता है, या कभी किसी क्रिमिनल के साथ डील करते हुए निकल जाता है. But largely he's still able to keep it together. I think that's where the staccato-ness of it comes. If he was somebody who was not able to deal with it, then it would be this thing that lingers and, and continues. I think it's him that gives us this sort of, in and out sort of feel about it.
So essentially, there is a Hathi in each one of us. I mean, he's in every man and every woman in that sense of the term, right?
I think so. I would like to think so. There's
And
definitely one in me and Avinash, that I know.
but now that Jaideep kind of really inhabits the persona, lives the role. Can you think of anyone else as Hathi at all?
No, I don't think so. No, and I also find it very difficult to look at Jaideep as Jaideep and not look at. Yeah. I also find it very difficult. In fact, a lot of time Avinash and I refer to him as Hathiram. It's for just it's out of love. I think he was meant to play this part. He was just there are sometimes when you have this really beautiful happy marriage, and it's a stroke of fate that when that happens, that, and it's you saw that with so in Sopranos with James Gandolfini playing Tony. It's just like you're like, there's no other actor who can play that part. I think with Jaideep and Hathiram, it is that kind of a marriage. You just feel that he is Hathiram.
Well, that's a perfect note for me to kind of wrap up, hoping that this marriage lasts many, many, many years and that we have part 3 coming up soon. I hope you're thinking about it, Sudeep, Avinash.
It's I mean, we better start thinking about it if it's ever happening, because it's going to take us another 5 years possibly.
Another 5 years.
We'll definitely wait patiently and watch out for it.
And I spent already 8 years on Paatal Lok, or 9 years on Paatal Lok. It's that's amazing.
I don't think you'll mind another 5, 10, 25, 30 years. What say? Thank you so much, and all the best with everything ahead, and hope it kind of becomes bigger than it already is.
Thank you so much, Namrata. It was lovely talking
Thank
to
you.
you.